to the cloud.
The cloud.
Where did that thing go? Hoping it's recording. Yep, it's recording. All right, cool. All right, welcome everyone to a live session with Faisal, our former Cryptosomniac equities analyst. Faisal is a renowned equities swing trader here in Texas, in Sugar Land, Texas. And so we're going to sit down with him and ask him some questions about how the stock market is doing, how he sees the market structure as of today, as of this month and this year, how the economy is doing overall. And then later, maybe we can get into some questions if you guys have anything you want him to look at, or maybe he can discuss some of his approach towards the market, maybe some of the indicators or the fundamentals he looks at. So with that being said, welcome, Faisal.
What a nice introduction. Thank you. I'm in a good mood now. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. No problem. So Faisal, tell me, how are things looking in the market?
Well, I mean, if you've been keeping up with it even a small bit, you'd probably know that the market has been hitting all-time highs and everything's been going well for the most part. I mean, maybe the past 2 days, I think we've seen some selling, but for the most part, you're having a lot of large cap companies hit all-time highs, which is very important. A lot of the leadership stocks like Apple and Microsoft have been hitting all-time highs. So generally, the health of the market is pretty high. And the difference is between now and I think 3 months ago, I think the health has been the same. But the sentiment is drastically different. Whereas maybe even a month and a half ago, I mean, the sentiment was so negative that I think that's why you kind of had this kind of sudden spike up that no one saw coming that ended up leading the market to all-time highs. So now when you have a positive sentiment, it really kind of adds in some new factors to play when it comes to, is now the right time to invest?
Gotcha. Interesting. So how do you see the reasoning? Why do you think the sentiment has changed so far? Because it doesn't seem like anything has progressed, whether it's tariffs with China, the stock market hitting all-time highs. From all that I've read, it seems like stocks are, for the most part, overvalued. Do you agree?
I think you can find pockets of overvalued, like for instance, but it's very different this time. When you're talking about overvalued, when I think of overvalued, so you used to have the software sector at the beginning of the year, which was, you could make a case that it was overvalued on a relative basis, and they've come down sometime. But you have stocks like in the housing sector that have gone up quite a lot, or especially the utility sector. They continue to push their multiples and become more and more expensive on a fundamental basis. But there are other factors that continue to push their prices upwards. So, barring that, you could say, sure, there are sectors that are overvalued, but I don't know if valuation will matter at this point. Maybe at some point in the future it will, but if you're looking at certain stocks and staying away from certain sectors because of the fact that you think they're overvalued, whether on a price to earnings multiple or price to book or whatever you use to determine value, I think you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities.
Gotcha.
So I think it's fairly valued, but you'll find undervalued sectors and some overvalued sectors.
Gotcha. And I think the overvalued sectors that I was particularly talking about was the technology side, more so, Amazon's or the Netflix's, maybe even not Facebook, but I would say Facebook is actually undervalued. What's your take on Facebook, by the way? Because I know a lot of people are interested in Facebook.
Yeah, I love Facebook first and foremost. I like Facebook due to the fact that so many people hate it right now. I think they go through a lot of external turmoil as far as their privacy and all the stuff that they're caught up in. But when you look at the numbers and how much this company can make, and you're not even talking about Instagram at this point. Instagram still has a lot of ways to go, I don't even know what they're going to do about WhatsApp or Oculus, but just judging off their core businesses, they still remain very strong. They're naturally high margin businesses, so they're protected from a lot of downside in the economy, and people are going to use them even during the economy. So they have some safe floor, even when things go rough, which is very, very important to the long-term investor, which is why you don't see these stocks that much, correct, to a certain extent. And, even when they do correct, they're bought back up pretty fast. So I like Facebook for the long haul. I think it's like a $300 stock in like 5 years at least.
Right, right. Awesome. So what are some sectors that you're looking at right now, that's, I guess, your primary focus, or something that you're seeing that is a good play for this week, or this, remaining Q4?
Well, this is very interesting, that we have the chart up here. I actually do like retail. Right now, if you can see the chart, I don't know, is the chart
Yeah,
on there?
we're screen sharing.
Yeah. So XLY is a consumer discretionary ETF, and it's really weighted. It has a lot of Amazon, a lot of Nike, a lot of Home Depot, a lot of the big consumer leaders, that have been doing very well for the market, except for Amazon. You would think this market's making all-time highs. The only big stock that has not really been doing well has been Amazon. If we can pull up a chart real quick.
Let's do it.
It's actually been lagging in comparison to, let's just say the other tech companies like Apple or Microsoft. Sorry. So Amazon is going through, I think, just a reassortment period. I'm still very long-term, bullish on this stock.
Yeah.
The estimates still look great. Their growth prospects still look good. But getting back to my point, I think the sector that you got to be in that has the most upside would probably be retail for, the names that I just mentioned. Amazon, which is one that has a lot of tremendous value, but for some reason in the short term, it's just not performing with the market. And I think when you see opportunities like that, like, at least we can see from this chart there, it's kind of like gone sideways a little bit. But as you can see, the sideways action, it's actually become tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's getting wound. And you may see it explode either to the upside or downside. And when it does, you can expect stocks like Amazon or Nike to end up leading, the sector to new highs. So I think I like retail. I think you can find a lot of value plays in retail. Like one of my favorite names that has been hit from the tariffs and China related news is Five Below. Five Below is an excellent stock that's growing very fast, still has a lot more room to grow, and they have a pretty unique business model. Even Dollar General, which has been high, I really like Dollar General too. So I think selective retail, including even stocks like Starbucks. I think Starbucks is one of my favorite value buys at this point. It's come down quite a ton, still has a great dividend. It's a little bit more expensive on the relative side, but like you said, when you have a good dividend along with a rising margin business, their estimates are still going up, and they're looking to expand even beyond coffee, which gives more of an incentive to be in the stock long term. Like you see right here, you can see, it just went up like crazy, and it has to come down a little bit going from 50 to 100. So yeah, just selective retail, I think, is my sector I'd be in.
Gotcha. And so let's break it down in terms of how you position your trades, any given, say, week or month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have different categories that you trade in. So for example, you go for some high growth stocks, some defensive stocks, I take it.
Mm-hmm.
Some you are looking for the long term. So can you give us a breakdown and also a definition along with that?
Yeah. So, bottom line is I try to come in every day that I look at the market with an open mind. I let the market tell me what it wants to do. And when you kind of do this for a good amount of time and you start to understand the patterns and micro patterns, whether it's fundamental patterns or technical patterns, the market will tell you what it wants to do. Sometimes you may have a very short window to make a decision, and other times it'll be much more drawn out. But the market will tell you what sectors want to go up, probably within the next month or 2 months, and what sectors want to cool off within the next month or 2 months. And so based on that, I use a lot of technical analysis and then relative fundamental analysis. And when I say relative, I mean, I look at, the stock's earnings currently and compare it to its stock price now, and then compare it to its performance back then when it was making a certain amount of earnings or revenue or margins, whatever the business may be. And that's how I kind of determine where to position myself and in what sectors to position in.
Gotcha. Awesome. And so you spoke a bit about, the market sort of showing you an opportunity. And obviously you've seen in the Cryptosomniac group, our analysis is heavily technical because
Mm-hmm.
there's not really a whole lot of fundamentals going on with Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have PE ratios to go off of. We don't have a CEO. We don't have earnings reports or anything.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. So when it comes to technicals and technical analysis, what are some tools that you utilize, and what are some tips and tricks that you could give us on the crypto side?
Well, I think first and foremost, yeah, I'm not that experienced with crypto, so I don't really know if the technicals match up as well. But you can go ahead and make the assumption that traders who trade stock probably trade a lot in the crypto market, or traders who trade in the crypto market probably have taken some of those technical strategies from the stock market and applied it to their trading in the crypto market. So just basing on that, some of the methods that I've used in the stock market that may be helpful. First and foremost, stocks move within ranges, period. And it's very important to, before you even get into a trade, you need to identify the range that it's in, whether it's in a broad range, long-term range. Usually if a stock has momentum, you do not, or I'm sorry, an asset has momentum, you don't necessarily have to go back to a weekly chart or a monthly chart to identify that range. You can, it's pretty identifiable on the daily chart. Like, let's say, for instance, we can go back to that XLY. Okay, this is exactly range right here. Bam, and then bam. Kind of like it's a more subtle range. This is an ETF of an overall sector. You're not going to get as clear of a range, and you can kind of see like an upside, higher lows and that type of pattern. But as far as just a basic range, you just need to identify where some of the patterns could bottom out and where they can top out. And you want to make sure you're on the lower side of the range if you're going to buy, and that you're on the higher side of the range if you're going to short, at least. Like the bottom line is you want to increase your odds with every trade, and so you need to implement those types of strategies. Also, it's really easy for determining when to get out, because once you've identified the range, you can kind of know what to look for in cases of a breakout or a breakdown. And those are always simpler ways to get out of the asset, or a kind of, you sell half your position or whatever it may be.
Gotcha. I think it's really important, what you just said about understanding and defining the range, because that's something that in the crypto community we talk about quite a bit, which is before you enter a trade, first of all, mark out exactly what the trading range is right now, whether it's the 15-minute or 30-minute time frame that we're trading in, or if it's a daily or a weekly chart, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very important to identify if you're trying to buy at the bottom of the range or short at the top of the range. Mm-hmm. How do you sort of manage risk? And do you keep like maybe a journal? Do you before entering a trade, do you sort of identify a game plan before entering a trade? Because that's something that I heavily preach in the community.
For sure. I think when it comes to stocks, like I said, I like to narrow down my search to what subsectors I think will outperform within the next month. So by that, I kind of narrow it down. And then, I'm sorry, what was your question again?
So my question was, do you keep number one, a journal, and number two, before you go into a trade, do you sort of have a game plan before you go in? Like, where is your entry point, your target profits, and then potentially your stop?
Yeah, so there are a multitude of factors when it comes to before I get into a trade, once I stay in it, and once I go out. So a lot of times, it's what do you think makes a stock go up? And I like to think there are multiple factors that can help propel a stock to higher prices. whether it's how are the peers doing, how is the overall ETF of the sector doing, which is just a broad sense of it, how are the leaderships in that stock group doing, how is the overall direction of the market doing. You need to have all of these things figured out in order to have the best odds of success. So I try to determine the health of the market first, whether it's an uptrend, downtrend, healthy, sideways. If it's sideways, you may not want to take a shot on it. You may want to wait till it gets to the bottom of the range or whatever. Then you identify the sectors that you like. That could be mostly based on fundamental analysis, or just basic theory, whether or not growth is in demand, or value is in demand, or dividends are in demand, dividend related stocks. You kind of have to narrow it down there. Then you narrow it down even more so to what are the best performing subsectors within that sector. And you kind of go through the stocks, which ones are the best winners, which ones have been doing better. And then you go through that, and then you see if you can find value in the fundamental space. And then if it matches up, if you like it fundamentally, it's all about timing with the technicals. So then you just, I'm just waiting. So as soon as I find a stock, I wait. And then when the technicals tell me, I buy it. And then I use, the ETF performance and the relative peer performance to tell me, okay, this stock may have enough momentum to break through this level of resistance. If not, if I start to see it wane a little bit, I'm fine with selling out and then coming back in. But there are a lot of relative factors. It's not just based on the stock's performance and then I'm just hoping. There are multiple factors that affect a stock's performance any given day.
Gotcha. Good stuff. So in terms of, going back and dialing into the technicals a little bit more, I started off in the stock market, and the first stock I ever traded was Vesta's wind energy. And back, in 2007, 2008, that was the hot sector. Like marijuana is the hot sector now.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, alternative energies was the hot sector.
Yeah.
And so, what I learned from back then was technicals, for the most part, is the widely most applicable strategy or tool that you can apply to anything, right? Mm-hmm. Though I did a bit of fundamentals research back then, technicals to me was really everything, because it encapsulates human psychology and how each person in the market, whether it's an algorithm or a professional or an institution or a retailer, functions in terms of each one of those respective candles that you see. And mm-hmm. So when you look at a chart and when you look at the technicals, a clean chart, what do you start doing, in terms of moving averages? Do you use Bollinger Bands? Do you use, volume analysis? How do you map out the technicals?
So you said it perfectly. This is a theory that I believe in. Technicals don't mean anything unless people give value to those technicals, unless the specific investors who trade that stock or that asset give value to those technicals. So I use a lot of moving averages. I use a lot of technical data, and I have it all on my screen. Like if you guys were to actually see, my full-on trading setup, there's a lot of stuff. And,
Yeah, by the way, folks, sorry, we couldn't show you that part because it had his account number and private information.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. We try to get it fixed, but maybe next time. But this is just my side.
Yeah, so this is just, one of the resources that Faisal uses. And can you tell us what this resource is, Faisal?
Yeah, this is Investors Business Daily. It's just a site that gives market information. And they also have this cool tool called MarketSmith. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. This is just something that I use, and I like their service very much. And, they have good fundamental data and good technical charts. So it's just a service that I use just for market information.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So going back to that question, technicals, right? Mm-hmm. What are the things that you would open up a laptop in the morning and you'd start looking at, what exactly the ranges, mm-hmm. the moving averages? How do you sort of, approach the market?
So ranges, you have to always check your ranges, see if a lot of times, and here's the thing that gets a lot of people, when the range is defined, a lot of times when the range either breaks down or, breaks out, but in this case, I'm going to talk about it breaking down. They'll usually open it below the low end of the range. And so you'll get caught blindsided completely just right at the open. And so, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry. What was your question again?
So we were talking about ranges, and you said sometimes the stock will just open at the bottom of the range. And I could kind of attest to that a little bit too, is, especially even now, a couple of days ago, I was in a dollar yen trade, and, right off the gate, like in the Sunday evening or Monday morning open, you can start seeing the asset just come right under the range, gap down. And then sometimes it just pushes back up because it traps people in short positions because it looks like it's broken the range, but really then it just shoots back up.
Exactly. And you're exactly right. And sometimes there are moments like that where it would be wrong to sell. Exactly. Because they'll just trick people. They'll get people with those stop orders, and it'll kind of be like a short squeeze, and it'll pop back up. And that would have actually not been a good time to sell. But usually I check to see what the stock or the asset likes to do. Stocks tend to have their own personalities. Every stock is different, whether they adhere to the 50-day moving average, the 40-day moving average, 200-day. Every stock is different. So the number one thing that I've gone that's really been successful for me, I never have the same formula, especially technical formula with a stock. Obviously you'll have stocks that adhere to the same rules as other stocks, but for the most part, you'll find in some cases that moving averages on different time frames matter more to some stocks than others, or some stocks will adhere to highs and lows versus moving averages. And so it's very important not to take your technical formula too seriously, but to really allow an open mind and be flexible with what the stock can do. Always look back at the history. The benefit with the stock market versus the crypto market is there's a ton of history that you can go off of as far as technical analysis to determine how the stock exactly trades. So use that to your advantage, definitely.
Awesome. Okay. So let's do the last couple minutes of this interview with what are some stocks that you're looking at, some trades that you're watching, some maybe that you want to potentially avoid. So let's go through some of those, if you don't mind.
No, that's cool. So right now I don't know if we're too late. I've been a very big believer in PCTY. They make software for like kind of Workday. They make analytical software, human capital, and payroll software, kind of like Paycom and all these guys. It's kind of like a crowded market, but these guys seem to be doing very good, and the numbers look great. And just recently, we could see they actually broke out of a nice cup, and they continue to go up. I think I actually put this stock up to buy at around $98 on last time I was on Discord channel. So it's really done well from that point. But as far as, that's what's been driving the market the last 2 weeks is these growth stocks. So now comes the question, is it too late? And my experience is that I don't think it's too late, but to expect the stock to go up, let's just say it went up from 98 to now 115, 114 and a half. I don't know how much percent that is, but to expect that same percent, I don't think that would be smart. I think the stock could probably go up to 120, which would be fairly easy. Like, I think I'm fairly confident it could go up to 120 pretty quickly, but those are more safer trades, more guaranteed trades because it's already broken out. But a stock like, let's just say Starbucks is one that I really do like long-term. I like the stock. It's come down a ton from its high, and I see tremendous value at this price. It's still staying in the sector that I like, the consumer staples sector. I believe this is the 200-day moving average. So it's kind of hit the 200-day, try to bottom out. We'll see. It'll probably come down, touch it again. But as far as on a fundamental basis, I like this stock for the long term. And now I'm just waiting for the technicals to show me, okay, there has been a bottoming out process, and it looks like it's close to being completed. And you see here, the key thing is, sure, it has not given me, like, you could say the stock looks terrible. It's kind of in a downturn. It hasn't broken any real moving averages, but when you start to see the first signs of basing, it touches its 200-day moving average. And now we're waiting for it to touch again and at least hold on to it there. You can take a shot there. And that's exactly the time you should take a shot at versus, wait for it to break out or gain momentum. Because if it breaks down, your stop very easily. Your stop is if it breaks 2 days below the 200-day, or you could do breaks 2 days below the low end of the stock. So I like this because it has a clear defined exit point as well as, a pretty solid entry point in my opinion.
Got it. That's a great point that you mentioned about technicals and, understanding that once you see a stock sort of coming down to the technicals you're looking at, it's very easy to identify entry and exit points. And that's really what you need.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the larger misconceptions in the crypto market, especially from, newer traders, is that they're kind of looking for either home runs or, easy win streaks where they think that the stock or rather BTC or whatever they're investing in should go up when they buy in.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't, their next trade should work out, or their next trade.
Yeah.
But that's not really the case.
Exactly.
If this really comes down to risk management, and it's that the very fundamental and core rule is that if you manage your risk properly, you can have 10 losers in a row, and then that 11th winner will take care of all your 10 losers.
Sure.
So that's really awesome that you mentioned that. So let's do a quick plug. By the way, where can people find you? What are you working on nowadays? And, how can people get more information like this from you?
Well, the reason why I kind of took a step back from Cryptosomniac was due to my personal job and me committing time to that. But on the side, I still do, I like to get my ideas out. And so I've kind of started a site. It's not fully done, so please don't say it looks bad. But it's called newagetrading.com with a K as the first letter, like new, like I knew that, or something like that. So that's kind of where I plan to release newsletters. I have some ideas about some mutual fund analysis, because I know a lot of my friends, they have all these jobs and they can't invest in stocks, but they can invest in mutual funds. So I go over some of that and just give a weekly synopsis about what the market is doing and kind of what I expect the market to do in the next month or so, because that's just the time frame I think I can predict the best.
Awesome. Perfect. And where can they find you on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, if at all?
Oh yeah, at New Age Trading. I believe that's the Twitter handle. Please forgive me because it is still kind of new. If it's not, just message me or I'm to get the right handle, but it should be New Age Trading. And so, yeah, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter. I have not posted anything on either of those mediums, but be sure I will definitely do that as soon as my work starts to get a little bit less.
Awesome. Perfect, man. Well, we definitely miss you in the Cryptosomniac community.
Yeah, I miss you guys too. You guys were awesome.
Yeah. We have a lot of questions pending for you. So if you ever do want to come back or hang out with us, you're always more than welcome to. And yeah, man, I hope to get you on more of these videos, because I really think we get great feedback and people in the community really love your content.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So good luck to you. Again, everyone, it's newagetrading.com. I put the link below in the chat. I'll also post the link in the later YouTube video. And thanks so much, Faisal.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
All right, let's stop this share.